Today, be prepared to be inspired. My guest, Lisa Osteen-Comes, is the associate pastor at Lakewood Church in Houston, Texas, under the leadership of her brother, Joel Osteen. She is well known for her practical, easy-to-understand messages. She is no stranger to the extraordinary. Injured at birth, Lisa developed a condition similar to cerebral palsy, which doctors said would cripple her and cause her early death. But as her parents prayed for her, God miraculously healed Lisa before her first birthday. Several years later, Lisa experienced another what can only be described as a miracle.
A package bomb blew up today at the Lakewood Church in Northeast Houston, injuring a church official who is also the minister's daughter.
Investigators are still trying to determine who sent the bomb and why. But late this afternoon, a member of the Houston bomb squad said he was pretty sure the bomb was wired with a 9-volt battery and electronically triggered to explode when the package was opened.
Today, a special report. Where is God when disaster strikes? John and Dodie Osteen tell the story of how a mail bomb horribly exploded and injured their daughter, Lisa.
Through all her challenges and experiences, including divorce and infertility, Lisa has become known as a respected ministry leader and Bible teacher. In my interview today, Lisa will share how God can take any adversity and turn it into a victory. Now, my interview with Lisa Osteen-Comes. You know, many people will remember where they were when Kennedy was assassinated or when America was attacked on 9/11. But for you, January 30th, 1999 is a very, well, I wouldn't necessarily say a special day, but a day to remember for you. Tell us what happened.
Oh, I'll never forget that day. And that was the day when I went into the office and, you know, I opened my parents' mail all the time. And this day I received this box. It was just addressed to J.O., I guess to my dad, John Osteen. And, you know, it was heavy, it was different, but, you know, I didn't have in my mind that there'd be any danger in it, but when I finally opened up the box, it exploded in my lap, and it was actually a mail bomb. And I was sitting in my desk, and I put the box sort of sideways, and that was such a miracle that I did that, because when it exploded out of the side, and 10-inch nails and shrapnel just went all through my walls and my desk and missed me for the most part. I did get some injuries in my leg and my abdomen. But when that exploded, you know, I didn't even really know what happened, but I found myself standing like 6 feet away at my desk. And I was like I was being electrocuted. And during that time, it's interesting because I thought I was dying, and I just talked to the Lord, and I said, Lord, you know, is this death? Am I dying? And the minute I said those words, I came to my senses, and I realized I was standing up, and I was alive, and I looked down at my clothes, and they were smoldering, and I just ran out of the office, and I said, a bomb has exploded in my lap. And to make a long story short, you know, the paramedics that came to the scene that day, they told us there must have been someone standing between you and your daughter, because it is a miracle that she even survived that explosion. And, you know, God just brought such goodness out of that. The media wanted to talk about the doom and the gloom,
Right.
and, you know, put fear in the church and in us. But instead, my dad just said, no, this is a miracle. We serve a good God, and he delivered our daughter, and he will always deliver us. And so God turned it around for good.
No, absolutely. And, you know, and you give a perfect account of that story in your book, That You Were Made for More. And what amazed me about you telling the story is that you started off saying, I changed my clothes that morning to a leather skirt instead of cotton. And every step, as I'm reading it, I'm thinking, God just took her by the hand from the moment you woke up through the ordeal to the hospital, having a paramedic to say, we're going to pray.
That's so true.
I mean, who would have ever, only God can do that.
Yes, even in the midst of tragedy, he's orchestrating our steps, and he's watching over us.
Well, I also noticed that in your book, too, that you have, I guess, one of your favorite scriptures is Psalms 23. Why is that?
Well, after I went through an unwanted divorce when I was just in my early 20s, I think, Dr. Bond, that I just sort of lived in the Psalms for a while, because I was so, I was sad. And I felt rejected because of what I'd gone through. And I found that the Psalms were just so full of encouragement. In fact, most of them are written by King David, who had a lot of heartache, a lot of tragedy, a lot of challenges in his own life. And yet he was this great psalmist who knew how to pour his heart out to God, and who knew how to worship God, and just to be real. And so I learned through the Psalms just to be real with God and talk to Him out of my heart. And then when I get to Psalm 23, it's like, wow, you know, this is God speaking to me. And He is saying that even though you may be going through a really dark valley right now, I'm with you in that valley. And I'm going to walk you through the valley. You're not going to stay in the valley. And you don't have to be afraid in this valley, even though it's dark, because I'm with you and I'm never going to leave you. And it just so ministered to me. And then He goes on to say that, you know, goodness and mercy are following you through that valley, and that I'll prepare a feast for you in front of your enemies, and I'll cause you to feast just in the time of famine. And so it so ministered to me, and I just realized that no matter what I go through in life, I'm never alone. Jesus is with me. He's my shepherd. He's leading me. He's guiding me, and it so blessed me. And I encourage anyone that's going through a trial to just read the Psalms every day, because you learn to find out how to encourage yourself.
Oh, absolutely. And you know, with every trial, my goodness, reading your book is like, how can one person go through so many different adversities? But, you know, and what I loved about it was you were so real in saying, okay, I went through this time. You know, sure, I had feelings of discouragement. Yes, I had feelings of depression. I didn't want to leave the house. At least you were real and not trying to cover it up and say, oh, I came out blazing, which in the end you did. I mean, every single adversity you went through, you triumphed. You were an overcomer. You were more than a conqueror. And I found that the book was so encouraging that as I'm reading your book, and I read your book from cover to cover because I wanted to read what you had to say to get ready for this interview. But as I'm reading your book, I find myself being ministered to. And I've got to bring this up. So,
thank you.
Excuse me, but you know, one of my favorite chapters in your whole book was when you talked about labels.
Yes.
And that there are labels that we can place on ourselves, which either can be a blessing or a curse.
Yes.
And also the labels that others can either put on us. And, you know, as a label, we know that on the back of a label, it can stick.
Yes.
And we can either allow it to stick on us, or we have the power to peel it off and throw it away.
That's so
but,
true.
you know, how important is it for everyone to realize how God sees us?
It's so vital to our own joy, our own peace, our own personal happiness, and to fulfill our personal destiny in God. Because, you know, as you said, people will try to tell you who you are or who you aren't. And sometimes we're just so quick to believe what people say. You know, those words stick, and then sometimes we just label ourselves, as you said, you know, as not smart enough, not valuable, and I could go on, and it's okay to label yourself as long as you label yourself with God's Word.
Right, and what I was so impressed about was that there are labels that someone may have placed on us when we were children.
That's right.
Or maybe teenage years or a young adult. Not that it may have bothered us at that time, but we go through life and we always act like it doesn't bother us, but in the back, it's eating at us. And then eventually, it can make us turn down the wrong road, so to speak. And that ministered to me so much because I literally had to put the book down and literally had to say, okay, God, you know, because reading your book makes me remember all of the labels that were said to me. And some of them, you know, I guess I took a hold of, and others, you know, you just pass them off and forget about them. But I literally had to set your book down and say, Lord, you know, deliver me from that label. And I just forgive that person who said it. Till this day, they don't have a clue. They don't even remember. But it's amazing how we hold on to things that were said to us.
We do, and many times we have to do just what you did and say, God, do I have any labels on my life that I don't even realize I have? Because sometimes subconsciously we've taken a hold of it and we live according to that label and we don't even realize it. And I've had God reveal to me labels that I've had on my life. And I tell you, it's so freeing when you can just peel off those labels and be who God really created you to be. Because there's greatness inside every person.
Yeah, and I appreciate hearing that so much because even, you know, your book, it's so multifaceted. You know, you have your personal story. You didn't hold anything back. You told every adversity you'd gone through. But at the same time, you took time. It's almost like these little short breaks in between your story of saying, but here's what God says.
Yes.
Here's what God did. Here's what God can do for you. And in a way, there are so many books out there that we can read to build us up and pump us up for a week or two. But I found your book to have this, an everlasting effect in a way. Because everybody who reads this, and if they will just read your book, everybody they're going to be reminded of a lot of things in their own life that because you have given Scripture, you have shown what God can do, that we can say, okay, God, I can lay that aside.
That's right. Well, I'm a Bible teacher. God really put me in the body as a Bible teacher. And so, I can't just tell my stories. I got to share those keys, those principles, the truths from the Bible that help me pull me out of depression, out of a time of anxiety in my life after going through infertility. After that male bomb, I faced fear. And so I didn't want to just share my story. I want to share, this is what helped me. I may not know everything, but I can tell you what I do know. And the Word of God is true. And so I just empower them with some truth that will help them really on a day-to-day basis. They can refer back to this book like a GPS device,
absolutely.
To just see how to navigate through the battles that they're going through.
Yeah, because anywhere from the chapter on labels, your chapter of talking about fear is unbelievable.
Oh, thank you.
And it's amazing because I had to tell my wife Michelle, because it was funny because when the publisher sent me the book, I'm reading it, and then she takes the book and she reads the whole thing before I do. And she goes, "Oh, you've got to read it." I'm like, "Well, I was reading it, and then you got it." But even
That's
so we were able to share things that you had stated. But even your chapter of talking about fear, just the things that you said, because of you lived through it, is literally I believe, going to help thousands, if not millions, of people say, "Okay, I don't have to live in fear anymore."
That's right.
And because, God said He'd never leave us or forsake us. And
Yeah,
He's
that's
always
right.
there.
And we're all going to face fear. I think that's what I really learned in my life. I was afraid to get up and speak the first time. And I was nervous for a long time. I wouldn't be doing most of the things I'm doing today if I would have given in to fear. And so fear is going to come to every one of us. But I say courage is just acting in spite of how you feel, in spite of the fear that you sense around you. And when you act in spite of it, boy, you just step out into a greater realm and into a place where you feel empowered to do all that God has called you to do.
Oh, absolutely. Because I know that in your book you stated, there are people, as yourself, they've gone through divorce. They've lost a loved one. Maybe people have lost a job. But how can you tell the viewers how they can turn their scars into stars?
Wow, that's what someone said to me after I went through a divorce, and I was living in such self-pity, thinking, why me? Why do I have to go through this? And my life is over. And the fact is, just because we go through a devastating trial doesn't mean our life is over, and we can't let a moment become a lifetime. So many of us get stuck in a moment, in a tragic event, and I sympathize because I've been through those, but we don't have to live there. We don't have to live in the valley. And so anyway, someone told me during that time, he said, "Lisa, you got to shake off the self-pity and let God take this scar and turn it into a star. In other words, let God use this for His glory. Let Him bring something good out of it." And so, in order to do that, I just say, what I can tell you is just stick with Jesus. Sometimes we want to blame God, we want to get bitter at God or angry at God or at people, but none of that's going to do you any good. And the only one that can really help you and deliver you is God. And so if you just stick with Him and get into His Word every day and encourage yourself and don't give up on the fact that God has a plan for your life and that He wants to do great things in you. And Jesus said this. He said, and when He's on this earth, He said, "In this world you will have tribulation. I'm just telling you right now, expect it. But be of good cheer because I have overcome the world." In other words, because Jesus overcame, we can overcome. And so we can't get mad at God. We just need to stick with Jesus and say, "Bring me through this. God, I need wisdom. I need direction. I know you can help me out of this. And God, what I can't do, you can do. I trust you to bring it together, to do the supernatural, to do the impossible." And sometimes it's easier said than done
It is.
because we get impatient And, you know, that's another thing. You've got to trust God's timing. But I'm telling you, I've stuck with Jesus, and I've trusted Him to bring me out of everything I've been through. And He's not only brought me out, He's brought me out better, and He's brought me out restored, and I've recovered all, and I'm the happiest person in the world. I mean, you know, I look back and I think, I can't believe I've been through those things, because it's so in the past, it's so last year, it's so last decade, and God has just given me such joy and fulfillment, and it's only found in God.